the recent battle that took place in the third match, culminating in the trilogy between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, took place Saturday, September 17th. This fight was, to say the least, lackluster, a letdown, so to speak. Though built up on what transpired before, even though no one really wanted this fight aside from the two combatants, the public, the paying public, and boxing insiders, those who have an interest in the sport, didn't see this coming across as something that had flame, a hot topic, something that piqued your interest. Canelo Alvarez, coming off of a fight where he lost to Dimitri Bivol after trying to move up to 175 pounds to challenge Bivol for his WBA light heavyweight title. Triple G, coming off of a lackluster effort earlier in the year against Murata. This fight, when they came together for the third time, showed us something about these two men that we've kind of known for a while. I spoke about it a long time ago, possibly even after their second fight was completed, that these men have found a way to make money in the sport by avoiding all serious and legitimate threats to what they brought to the table. Though they have held titles and been champions, they have not faced the most quality of opposition on either side. They have made a killing against insufficient challengers, undeserving challengers, men who really weren't in their league. And they have avoided, with earnest effort, those who are in their league. And since they've come across the middle and super middleweight divisions, the names are still familiar and the same for both men. Demetrius Andrade, Jamal Charlo, now David Benavidez, and David Morrell. These men have waited patiently, so long that even one of the smaller young fighters, Jaime Munguia, is ready to join that class. Canelo and Triple G have been paid handsomely from the sport, from the networks that they fight on, namely DAZN and PBC. PBC paid Canelo handsomely and even offered him the opportunity to face some of their in-house fighters, and Canelo declined. To even now look at how he has taken a position of not wanting to fight against any Mexican fighters going forward in the future. To the Mexican family, that can sound respectful. But with those who have a more keener eye on what he's actually saying and doing, avoiding the stiffest of competition. Canelo is not the most athletic fighter. He doesn't dance around the ring. He doesn't move in and out. He doesn't have the slickness of a fighter. He's a plotter. He's a come forward fighter. The culture of Mexican fighters typically fight in that dynamic. And with so many who are looking for a better opportunity in life and a chance at legacy, to deny those very men the opportunity is an avoidance of supreme consideration. Triple G has done the same thing. Once adopting the mantra of Mexican style to build the fan base and the financial support, given the fact that he's a plotter and a puncher, but someone who isn't as skilled as he could possibly be and lazy in trying to be diversified. But he would welcome those people who'd give him the opportunity. I remember saying years ago that if he could fight Canelo 20 times, Triple G would do it. And it's not for the competitive nature of it all, but it's for the blasphemous economic sensibility that most don't think about. He knew that this is the one opponent who has one of the biggest names in the sport. I didn't say he was the biggest star in the sport, but he has one of the biggest names in the sport, where it could be an economic windfall for him as far as a payday, and that the risk of being really beaten up or even KO'd, bar the embarrassment, was something that is of very low probability. So he wanted a trilogy match against Canelo. They have been familiar with one another from the gyms, and they both knew that facing some of the other names in the sport that I named off, that's where the real threats are. Those are the type of opponents that could not only end their train, but possibly end them as fighters. Because those are the men who would be seeking to knock them out, who would be seeking the legacy of what victory would mean in the bouts, and take the luster off of their careers. When these two men faced off Saturday, the 17th of September, they looked like two old fighters who had probably come across one another's path one too many times. And this was only their third meeting in the ring professionally. But the 4 years of time that lapsed between, and Triple G is now 40 plus years old, and Canelo being 32 with nearly 70 fights under his belt, they look shop-worn. They look battered. They look like two combatants who have probably overstayed their tenure in the sport. That's not disrespect. That's simple observation. And the more that you think of it, by them facing off against one another looking so bad, what would they look like being in the ring against the likes of Andre Ward, Demetrius Andrade, Jamal Charlo, David Benavidez, David Morrell, and as I said now, Jaime Munguia. Think about it, people. And I mentioned Andre Ward, who is retired now, but that was the challenge on Triple G's plate a few years back, when he elected not to necessarily move up in weight, but he was challenging who he might be able to beat from 147 to 175. Ward was ready to answer that challenge. Triple G thought better of it and remained a big fish in a small stream. Canelo, on the other hand, has wisely dug out opponents that are easy to defeat and those that he can earn maximum paydays against. He went on a European bum bash. But boxing observers realized exactly what he was doing. And every time they would mention the names that I mentioned, he'd get upset. He claimed those men had fought nobody. But the avoidance was obvious. Now, after Saturday, September 17th, you can see why it was so obvious. These two men are two of the most limited, successful fighters in modern boxing. You have to look at it for what it truly is, and that is no lie. Think about it. What would those other names have done to the two men that you were able to see this past Saturday? You tell me what it is. What, at the end of the day, is the redemptive factor here? I see two options. Option number one, both of these men take a little time away from the ring and come back and decide to give the opportunities to the fighters that deserve them. No longer hanging around the sport, avoiding and stalling out the titles. The second redemptive factor is that they go quietly away and take their economic success with them, retire, because they are not the top of the class. This is Stormy B. Man. Shout out to the LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.